We're live.
Hey, everybody. We are indeed live, and I am indeed here in person. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again for episode, I think we're 11 now, Steve. 11 of Codified Security.
If you don't know how to count, we are definitely at 11. We're missing evidence of some episodes, but, you know, we're only so technical.
I feel like I've done this at least 10 times, so we're probably on episode 11. Yes.
You're the historian here.
Absolutely. What I say goes. So yeah, episode 11. Absolutely. How have you been this week, good sir?
I had knee surgery, so I've been hobbling around. I have a sympathy stick somewhere. Crutch. There it is. Hold on. There it is.
Nice.
Make sure that's on camera.
Yeah,
so that's been occupying my life. It hasn't been nearly as good as yours.
For the sympathies, absolutely. Got to have the stick on show. Well, we wish you a speedy recovery with the hobbling. Yes, I have been on a much needed week off, and not at all sponsored by the Travel and Tourism Board of Croatia. I can say that visiting Dubrovnik is well worth it. Had an absolutely fantastic week with the girlfriend. Did some swimming in the sea and some, boat tours and drinks and beers, and yeah, just really pretty place.
Sounds like type 1 fun. Nobody wants to hear you.
Yeah, just rubbing it in there for those that have been in the British heatwave that did not happen. Yes. And I am less pasty white than my usual color. So, you know, for the 1 week that this lasts before I go in my normal translucency, I'm gonna rub it in a little bit.
Yes, you look beautiful.
Thank you. So we should really chat about what we've got coming up in this episode, shouldn't we? We're going to be joined in a little bit by Mike Urbanski from Bridgecrew, who is going to talk us through all things new features in VS Code and all the cool hard work that's been going into make that tool even better than it was. Here, as always, with Steve Giguere and myself, Matt Johnson. And so, yeah, we'll be joined by Mike. And we've got a couple of tricks up our sleeves as well, haven't we? What are you going to be showing people?
Yeah, baselining on Checkov. Well, I'll explain why it's there and some use cases around it. But yeah, essentially you can run Checkov and say all that stuff. Okay, forget about that. Let's just look for new stuff going forward, and I'll show you how that works.
That's super cool. And that's something like that we've been toying with for a while. It was a customer ask from and a community member asked from ages ago. A couple of people had implemented it themselves. And it's just that whole not causing people pain when you want to throw Checkov into pipelines, right? So it's kind of around that kind of topic.
It is a pain reducer. Yes.
It is.
I'm very familiar with this. Kind of familiar with this concept from my previous lives in static analysis and software composition analysis. When you introduce any kind of scanning tool into a mature environment, it can hurt.
Pain reducing features coming up. And then I am going to dive a little bit into the content of a blog post, which is kind of moving away from Checkov and using your to kind of look at cost allocation and how you can custom your tags with things like Cost Explorer in AWS to do some really cool stuff automatically in your pipeline, which might, if you are one of these opsy people that has to deal with cost and who's running what and where the hell did my workloads go, that might be of interest to you. So we will get into that action-packed show. We should probably bring Mike on, shouldn't we, and introduce him before we start talking about beers, so that he can be really annoyed about being in the wrong time zone. Hello, Mike.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on your esteemed show.
We are esteemed. Thank you.
Esteemed. I am sure you will help us take viewership through the roof. Absolutely. What time is it for you there, Mike?
It is noon. So I have my water. Okay. Not above a noon beer, but not today.
All right. Professional at all times. I, on the other hand, am rocking a Moon Whistle Bernie Milk Stout.
Good.
Yo.
Oh, that was a beautiful fade in with the focus.
I know.
I like that. It was almost like you planned that.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I am on a Brewdog versus Mikella Urban Fog.
Oh,
Come
let
on.
me know what you think of that.
Need to cover my face up for it to. Yes. Oh my god! In the camera, that looks really pretty.
Yeah.
It is not as green in
lovely.
real life, but it's very nice. But I also have, just in case I run out, I smuggled one of these back from Croatia. This is, and I'm going to pronounce this horrifically wrong because every time I have ordered one for the last week, they have just laughed at me. No matter how many times I tried to get them to say it back. Ojusko, I think. And this is like a local lager from Croatia, and it is absolutely delicious in the 34 degrees Celsius sun. I can tell you that.
That sounds good.
Again, humble brag.
You've got the matching glass for your Brewdog. Very cool.
Well, absolutely
On brand.
Fully on brand. Got to do these things. Bridgecrew beer glasses. That's not a bad shout, is it?
All right, prepare yourselves for new swag.
Anyone watching that thinks a Bridgecrew beer glass would be good, and you would like that swag, and best slogan wins a glass. What would you put on a beer glass with Bridgecrew branding? Let us know.
All right, leave it in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on Twitch, follow us on Twitch. Put a comment down on YouTube that says, "I want my beer glass to say this," and make it relevant. Don't just put "I love Matt's mother" or anything like that. Don't do that. Keep it appropriate, ladies and gentlemen.
Please, especially like that. With moving swiftly on, I think they would say from that. What have you two? I am going to stay unusually silent for this bit because I have not looked at industry news for a week and a bit. So I will ask you two, what should I be reading? Like, what exciting things have you stumbled upon in the world of cyber and security and all things good this week?
Shall I go just so Mike can surf the internet and
go for it? Yeah. Just hit the register.co.uk, click on security, and first result.
So this is quite cool because Black Hat and DEF CON happened between the last office hours and now. Outside of the COVID resulting outbreak from said events, this is a really great article that talked about, this is how quiet it was, but just talked about some of the cool things on it. So this is really from UK PC Mag, the UK version. Scariest things we saw at Black Hat, so that's worth looking at. Fun things. The Pony Awards were announced, so best efforts within security are there. So this is easy to find, ponies.com. So this is a bit of fun. Really check out the privilege escalation bug. There was a really good article about that, independent of that. And then where I wanted to look at, something I didn't expect to be as good as it was, which came out recently, is NSA's Kubernetes hardening guidance. This is just out. It's kind of long. It looks big, I would never read that 60, but it's actually not as bad as it looks.
That's what I was going to say too.
You've seen this one? Okay, cool. You can comment. We can comment. We can do a team effort.
Yeah,
so it's really good.
This was actually my thing.
Come on.
I think I have a backup, but it's not as cool as this.
Well, we can do this as a team effort then, because this is... previous to this, there's a few different guides, and then there was the book that Liz Rice wrote about best practices. But this is pretty modern, and it's only really 30 pages, and then it gets into quite an extensive set of appendices with examples and figures, and so it's actually
there is really going to be so much YAML in those appendices, aren't there?
Oh yeah.
So many printed pages of YAML.
There's a Docker file, all the things you love. Really.
Does it kind of match up with or kind of contrast from the SIG security white paper? Is it very similar in kind of content and recommendations, or
I mean the recent supply chain one, or
as in this one I'm holding?
I guess it crosses over.
it's right in front of me.
I'd say it dives a little deeper. I don't know. What do you think, Mike? I haven't read it word for word yet. It only just came out, and it's long.
Yeah, this one seems deeper. I'm still going through it. I should say we're still going through it.
But it's for like a government issue. There's a few other government things that came out, or we could classify as boring organizations that make things like this that have been a little bit fluffy. But this isn't. It's not fluffy. It's actually, if there was a way to do a merge of this with the Kubernetes security book as like an instant upgrade, that would be awesome. But I like it. So it's worth looking for. And I can't remember where I got it. Maybe this just works. But if I just grab that and paste it into, like, can we just put it in the comments and give it to you all for free? We will, if that works.
Go on, give it a paste, and I'll give it a click.
All right. That sounds like a great idea. Let's put that into the comments.
I will definitely add that to my reading list.
I think we can comment. Right, so there you go. Try that. Try that, world.
Copy pasta.
Of course, now I'm just doing the thing that you should never do. Just click the link I told you to click.
just absolutely click this invalidated link. That works directly.
Amazing. There you go, world. It's quite good. Check it out.
Cool. Quite good. Two out of the 3 people on this stream endorse the message of that PDF.
Well, that rocks. Yeah, because if that was both our thing, then it's good. Let's do it. All right, we can end there.
Cool. The only other thing I was going to ask, Steve, is from that list of the scariest things we saw at Black Hat and DEF CON, was there one in particular that you went, oh, geez, how did I miss that news?
No, it was, I can't believe how empty it was. That was the scariest thing ever. It was like,
where are all the people?
It was, if you were ever going to go to a Black Hat or DEF CON and feel somewhat safe for once, I guess that was the one. These were the ones.
The guy running the fake 4G cell in the keynote is not there this year because he can't get into the country. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh yeah, we're just afraid because he has a lower immune system for some reason.
I had that experience the first DEF CON I went to. I took a burner Android phone and Wi-Fi was disabled. I was purely on like a burner SIM card. I took all the precautions that you do on your first DEF CON. Yeah. And we walked in and kind of watched like one of the opening sessions. And even though I was only on 4G, my Android suddenly went, you have like 8 system applications that all suddenly need updating. And it was like core system services. And they were just like, yep, do you want to update now? And it was like, hell no.
It wasn't your phone. You should have said yeah.
And then you tried to, but I was using it for the whole week. So and then I tried to actually browse the internet on the apparent 4G connection, and it was not a real internet connection for sure.
Hey, that's cool. I like that. All right, my beer is good. Is yours good?
My beer is delicious, actually. The last Macella I had was way too sweet for me, but this is a truly valid New England IPA.
It's truly valid.
It's valid. What a compliment.
It is a legit New England IPA. So congrats, guys and girls of Brewdog and Macella.
Yeah, I like Macella.
I've never understood how those collabs work, really. Like,
who makes it?
It's clearly brewed at one place, like by one set of brewers. So is it just like collaboration on the recipe, or I don't know?
I think that's the deal, isn't it?
The can was clearly a collaboration.
Yeah.
The liquid inside and some mileage may vary. Who knows? Brewdog, if you are watching the stream, let us know in the comments.
feel free to provide us with beer for the next show.
So that would be amazing. A sponsorship of beer is always acceptable. And without further ado, shall we hand over to Mike to kick us off into some actual content of an actual technical nature, and show us all the wonderful new updates that have been happening with the pairing of VS Code and new Bridgecrew APIs and all the cool stuff we can do there.
That's pretty cool. Mike, introduce what you're going to show us, and then I'll throw your screen up.
Yeah, sounds good. I will be talking about a handful of VS Code updates we've made in the last couple of weeks. These range from simple quality of life improvements to make just using it easier. It also makes supporting it easier for me. Very exciting. And then some actual features, new integration points with the Bridgecrew platform itself.
Very
Awesome.
cool. Very cool. All right, I'm gonna hide your screen, Mike, and we're gonna end up in an infinite loop because I can see you're showing us. Boom.
Supportability is key. I like that.
Yeah. So if you have been using VS Code, our Checkov VS Code extension, and not updated it recently, a couple of these settings are new. I'm just going to run through them quickly because these are the quality of life thing. They're not game changers, but they're nice. So we do now allow you to pin a specific Checkov version. So we have the VS Code extension under the hood. It's powered by the Checkov CLI. That CLI gets updated every day. New features, new fixes, new policies. And you now have the ability to specify which Checkov version you want to use. There are two main reasons you might want to do this. The first would be to maintain a stable policy set. We do push new policies pretty regularly to Checkov. If you don't want to be surprised by new failed results, you can use this to prevent those automatically getting included every time you run the extension. That's one thing. The other thing is for all the times that we never ever introduce bugs into Checkov, it doesn't happen, never happened, never will happen. But if it does, you would have the ability to go back to a specific version to work around that just in the meantime. But it's not going to happen. We also just have this little thing to stop this really annoying error pop-up that we give you. Some people didn't like it. It was kind of wordy and large and frequent, even though we didn't have bugs. So you can get. Go ahead.
I think as well, just to interject there, it was the fact that Checkov would kind of kick off a scan on each new tab, and I think that was a UX issue that box was designed to help with, right?
Yeah. Speaking of hacking, this token is not sensitive at all. It won't get you anything if you take it. If you've taken it already, good for you. We have a couple quick new commands as well that just help with diagnostics and things. So if you open the command palette and type Checkov, you have the old regular commands. We're actually running the Checkov scan, installer update. If you change this version at all, then you can just run the update Checkov command to get whichever version you specify. We do actually now have a command to open your Checkov log file.
Huzzah.
Which is very nice if you don't know where it is on the file system, which I never do, and you don't have that pop-up enabled. Now you can get to the log, little things like this. You have an about Checkov command as well that will tell you the installed CLI version and the way it was installed. We support a few different methods. Docker is the first one that we try. It works best. It's the fastest. But this is just useful troubleshooting information as well. So these aren't huge things, but they're kind of nice. One big new feature that we have is the ability for the VS Code extension to actually consume suppressions or exceptions that you configure in the Bridgecrew platform. I forgot one other little one. You can have the VS Code extension show you Bridgecrew platform IDs. So if you do use both the Bridgecrew platform and Checkov, you know that we have two different sets of IDs that map to one another. Checkov has been able to display these for a while. The VS Code extension can as well. So if you're used to one set of IDs or another, you can choose which ones will show up, which is nice. So for this, I'll be looking briefly at three different files here. And I'll just introduce them quickly, then I'm going to switch over to the Bridgecrew platform. So I have a really small repo here. It's called TerraGoat3 because have created enough TerraGoat clones that I just started giving them new numbers. This has this repo has 2 files in it in this directory. And then I also just have another random Terraform file from somewhere else on my file system open as well. And I'll talk about why this matters. I will also switch to the Bridgecrew platform here and just show a couple suppressions that I've configured. So we have in the Bridgecrew platform, you can view your scan results from Checkov, from repos that you've integrated, and you can suppress those if there are errors you don't care about. For example, if you think encryption is lame, you can disable these encryption checks. So I have one configured here for this policy, AWS General 56, and I've suppressed this policy for my entire repo that I had open in VS Code, which means no resource, no S3 bucket in that repo will have this show up as an error. And to demonstrate how this works in VS Code, I'll start by looking at the scan results from this file that's outside the repo, conveniently named. And as you can see, this has a handful of errors that Checkov found, including this General 56. So, this is just a repo that, or a file that doesn't have any suppressions tied to it from the Bridgecrew platform. Now I'm going to switch to a file that is within the repo, same resource. By the way, this is simulating a Twilio API key, I believe. It technically meets the regular expression for that, in case you're wondering what that's all about. So because this file exists in my TerraGoat 3 repo that I had applied a suppression to, if I check out the results here, we can see that the General 56 finding is not here. And there's another suppression at play as well. But that one that I pulled up in the platform, not here. And
that's super cool.
Yeah, and it worked in the demo too, which is awesome. And then if I switch back to the platform here and show another suppression, here's one where I just took a specific resource. So in the file test.tf, the bucket B1, I suppressed this encryption check for just that particular resource. So we uniquely identify a resource by its repo, its file, the path of the file within the repo, and then the resource type and name that you give it in Terraform. So if I switch over to this test.tf, which matches the file, the suppression I just showed in the platform, let the scan go. By the way, we are working on some scanning performance improvements, which are going to be very exciting. As we can see, there are even fewer results here. So that other one that I had suppressed that I just showed you in the platform is no longer here, in addition to that repo-wide suppression. So this is nice. What this means is that now, I think this was the last place where scan results wouldn't necessarily match, meaning now wherever you run a scan, if you run with your Checkov and Bridgecrew platform integration, the results should match. So you won't be in a situation where you have suppressions being applied in one place but not in other places and get mismatched results and all that.
That's very, very cool. Very cool.
Yes,
so
it is. Yes.
So like you can effectively use Bridgecrew now to mandate a team-wide or corporate-wide set of policies, and the developers don't even need to worry about what's going on in Bridgecrew or what maybe the security team has set as those set of policies. Those developers can just sleep easy knowing that the VS Code result will be related to those policies and those suppressions and those exceptions. So you just need to go, if it turns up in VS Code, it's something I need to deal with.
Exactly. And then another thing you can do as of a little while ago, I'm going to switch my token out here.
Is this another hack-proof token that won't get you anywhere?
This one technically no, but it is. Well, it's not going to get you anything interesting. It is technically hackable, I suppose, but I'm going to change it soon. So this is, I switched the API token out, and what that did was have the extension pull data down from a different Bridgecrew account. And what we get in these results are, I threw this together in case you couldn't tell. So these aren't like nicely named realistic policies, but these are actually custom policies that I created in the Bridgecrew platform that are running in VS Code here. So not only do all your suppressions match up, but any custom policies you create will also be evaluated, every place that you run a scan, either with Checkov or with like your direct Bridgecrew GitHub integration, whatever it may be.
Cool. So this is adding considerable value to using, not just getting an API key so that you can use the VS Code plugin, right? But also using the Bridgecrew platform in combination with Checkov, whereas that's pretty awesome.
Mike, always the consummate professional, has just demoed this awesome like shared policy feature. Like I was going to ask you, Mike, and put you on the spot. I'm like, hey, does this Bridgecrew to VS Code integration also work for custom policies? And I thought you were going to go, I don't have any of those to demo. And yet there we go. Like, so yeah, to Steve's point, like carrying on that, a security team or the security advocate within a DevSecOps team can use Bridgecrew to not only define checks they don't care about, but can define custom operational checks. Let's say, hey, we have this tagging structure. We absolutely need all these resources to have these tags. And they can define that once in Bridgecrew, and every engineer then running VS Code will get all of those custom policies directly in their interface. That's cool.
That's right. And the policies themselves are very powerful. It's a YAML-based spec, and it's kind of hard to demo. I've tried many different ways, but what you can actually do is write policies that look at connections between resources. And so you don't have to just look at, is this specific attribute on this S3 bucket, set to the correct value. You can actually look at the resources that are connected to it and make different decisions. Is this EC2 instance in a sensitive prod VPC behind an open firewall, open security group rule, and does it have properties XYZ? If not, then you can get a very specific alert for that. So that's what our custom policies allow you to do.
Have we done that on office hours before? Like, having only been a part of 3 of them, has there been a custom policy focused?
I don't think we have. Mike, I've just sent you a custom policy that I wrote that you should just be able to drop into that policy editor in Slack.
Oh, hold on. All right. I can remove your sensitive data from the screen for a second. Let me know when you want me to throw it back in.
Oh no, I'm good. Yeah, the multiple window action.
Hey, look at that. See, looks like magic.
So here's an example where, let's see, we're looking at connections between the EC2 instances and the associated network interface. And then we're looking at the connection to the subnet. And then we're looking at the connection to the VPC. And we're looking to see if this instance is within a VPC. Is that what this check is, Matt?
Yeah, basically. So this will find things that aren't in a VPC, just as an example. And yeah, this is just the thing that you cannot do with the traditional Checkov v1 Python checks, right? Which are still very powerful. But what this allows us to do is really simply say, I am writing a query across multiple connected Terraform resources.
Right on. Yeah. Yeah. The Python policies are great. Many of them make up, the old core of the platform. But this spec is the future, so to speak. And these policies can run everywhere. The Python policies will only run in Checkov. Our docs on these are good. Like I realized me parsing through the slide didn't really convey much about it. Our docs on this are good. We have a handful of examples of different types. we can throw a link to these in as well.
Cool. Yeah, and I can show later as well, like you can write these directly into Checkov as well. So with Checkov v2 now supporting the graph style queries, if you are the kind of team that likes kind of writing custom checks and storing those custom checks historically with Python inside your repo for your CI/CD pipeline to pick up those Checkov checks, you can do exactly the same with the this new style of YAML defined graph check as well.
Yep, the definition syntax is exactly the same. The metadata is a little bit different because in Checkov you have to give the policy an ID, but that's really the only difference.
Right.
Nice. And is that guidelines URL? That's if you wrote in your internal documentation to say this is why we've written this.
100%.
So when you get your feedback, you can link to your own internal URL that tells you,
Yeah,
this is why we're flagging this.
yeah. Some people
Nice.
will just write 5-paragraph essays here. So
Okay.
intro, body, conclusion with all the guidelines. More commonly, yeah, it's a link to your internal doc site, whatever that may be.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Cool.
And then I can show one other very quick thing, our new user-based and rotatable API tokens. So previously you had just one organization token for Bridgecrew. Now users can create their own. Those tokens are scoped based on user permissions in the app. So different individuals can have different levels of access to the API itself. And so that token that you all saw and copy pasted is now no longer valid. But
And this is
that's why you're so,
the second one's
that's
very
so
this
fast
is why
and
Mike
loose with
did
the
not
tokens.
care about his token.
Set us up.
The next pull request coming is to make the tokens about 8 times longer, just so that people that do decide they want to transcribe it from the Twitch stream have even more annoyance.
Nice.
Oh, obviously not. Obviously kidding. But yeah, that is even without the custom policy stuff. Like, if I had a wish list, which I did, of things I would like to see change in like the version 1 of the VS Code plugin, that pretty much settles all of my wishes. I wanted to be able to pin a version because sometimes I'm offline. I wanted to be able to disable the error message because maybe I'm working with Terraform that is, like, for our jobs, intentionally like not good Terraform and isn't designed to parse properly, so it'll trip things up. Yeah, that could not be better.
It's funny. The you give a very nice, kind example of the error message, whereas my version is sometimes I just turn Docker off on my Mac OS because it sucks and it just like eats up all my CPU, and then suddenly my VS Code goes, "Hey, where'd it go?"
Oh,
Over and over.
you're saying you want your MacBook Pro to have more than 30 minutes of battery life when you're not at home? That's crazy.
When I have Docker and it's trying to index all my photos and do all sorts of weird, wacky things. Yeah.
Well, you're technically not probably allowed to take your laptop too many places, anyways, right? So,
right. Coffee shops, coffee shops without power is as far as we've got, really.
You just can't open it up. Yeah.
And we definitely have some more updates in mind too. Like I definitely want to make it so you can just choose which installation method gets used. Docker, other than having to run Docker, it seems like using Docker for this is strictly better than the others. But pip3 is pretty viable. Pipenv gets to be a little bit painful through here. Those are the 3 that we support. But there's not really a reason we can't, let you choose. So look out for that soon too.
That is super, super cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Matt, because I think when I started at Bridgecrew in May, was the VS Code plugin pretty new at that point?
Yeah, it came out in maybe March or April.
Yeah. So I was okay. So in the month before I started, I was also playing with it and getting a feel for it. And that like you hit the nail on the head of all the what did you call it? The not standard of living,
quality of life.
Quality of life. The quality of life improvements. I think you're playing down how important those were.
Right.
Oh
Yeah.
it's we released it, and it's solid, and it has been, and we gave it some love at the beginning, and then it's overdue for some more love, and now it has gotten that love.
Amazing.
That is awesome. Well, Mike, thank you very much for giving it the love.
And now
I know those changes will make me infinitely happier using it. And to everyone watching, I hope it will make you enjoy your Checkov VS Code experience even more as well. Like I love the API, like the things that have had to happen. Like we've opened up new APIs on the Bridgecrew platform side to have a language where we can share the policies based on the account and based on those new API tokens, and then implemented receiving those and checking the repo based on which policies and which suppressions, as Mike's just showed. Like there are so many different engineering pieces that all had to kind of fit together for those updates. So it's just really, really cool to see it live.
Nice.
Sweet.
Mike, are you done? Is that everything you've got for us? Even not that was small, that was huge.
That is all I've got. Thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure.
Anytime, absolutely anytime. Especially with those kind of features. Like same time next week.
I'll try to come up with something good between now and then.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks again, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
It was cool. How many of those did Mike personally author? Like he's deeply involved in making the improvements to Checkov and not just like supporting it.
Right. Yeah. Like I think when Mike said there's a few reasons we've made these changes and supportability, that was not a joke. There is so much work that goes on with that team. Very, very cool. Yes. I've not looked at the actual PRs, obviously, because I've been a little bit out of the loop for the past week. But for those interested, let us know how many PRs Mike has been hurriedly manifesting over for the past few weeks. Very, very cool.
Incredible. All right. What do we want to do next?
Good question. How's your beer going down?
Fast. So that's a good sign.
Is that a Coca-Cola glass?
No. This is a Siren. This is like a Siren Brewery Lumina glass.
Like it.
But it looks like Coke, doesn't it? I could be cheating.
It does. You could be cheating.
Yeah, but I'm not. I would never do that.
That's for Mike's next session when he comes back next week with, another million pull requests that he's just made everything awesome. He could do the same, right? He could say he's on the rum and Coke, and could just be having like Coke Zero or something. Like, there's ways to game this podcast drinking system. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's talk. Hear you. Other exciting things. I think yours is
mine's
more
quick.
Because mine's
pretty quick.
Like
too.
People might have already read the blog about mine, so.
Well, I knew you were going to do this.
It's been up there for a while.
I didn't read it, so I was expecting the live version. It's so much
easier.
That's how I learn. I learn better live. Hey, here we go. All right,
you're in an Azure directory.
Well, that's neither here nor there, right? If you're familiar with TerraGoat, you'll see that I'm in. Well, like Mike, we all have our personal versions of TerraGoat that are cut and chopped and changed. And so I'm in the Azure directory, and there's my stuff. And so the standard checkoff here would be -d dot, and let's say I'm impatient. So I'm going to use quiet and compact, right? I'm just going to let it go. And it should be pretty quick, I believe, and they'll see a flash of beautiful colors that will cross the screen in a second. Fantastic. All right, so this is the standard checkoff. And I went with compact because it's TerraGoat. So there's how bad is this?
Millions of
problems. Holy moly.
Yeah, if you've not used the new version of Checkov recently, you might be familiar with quiet, but --compact stops the inline kind of code segments being displayed on the screen. So it's pretty useful for parsing output.
Is pretty awesome when you have a baseline.
Right.
But when you don't, can go off the top of your screen. And so this is kind of information is unretrievable. I updated Checkov before this, like just before we started, and I'm behind already.
The joys
Okay.
of a truly automated CI/CD pipeline.
Ah, come on. So yeah, that's where we are, and so if for me, if this is a mature environment, this is running in Azure, it obviously this would be a terribly insecure mature environment, but just for the sake of argument, right?
I'm sure they exist.
Yeah, let's say. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to do create baseline. And that's the only additional feature I'm going to run. So my first run in my new environment, I'm still going to get all these results, but I'm also going to say, all right, well, but this is where I want to draw a line in the sand. So now it's brighter for me than it is on the share. But if I do that, you'll see it's now created in this directory a .checkup.baseline. So that's kind of cool. And then the easiest way to do this is to use baseline now. So I know it's there. So yeah, there it is. We give it one more go. And if it finds anything that has been flagged, almost like an auto suppress kind of thing.
Nice.
And nothing
cool.
nothing to see, right?
Right.
We can take a look what the baseline looks like and see the way it's just JSON. It's broken down by file, by resource, and by check IDs.
Yep.
So not bad. It's pretty easy to manipulate. And if you want to, I mean, I've been playing with use cases on this a little bit. And so say, for example, I am responsible for roles, for example. I could just go, nope, I don't actually want you on my baseline because that's what I'm working on today. Then we run again. Now roles is gone, but I think that to me that's important. So there we go. So now I've only got one thing wrong with my roles. It's there. Not too bad. And I might actually remove the compact now because I can digest that. It's not going to like overwhelm me with stuff.
It's not gonna go past your iTerm like buffer scrollback.
Right. So much easier now.
Cool.
Cool. And then lastly, if I were to say add a whole new file like the one I've got sneakily up here to here. So I've just been working on my Kubernetes. Seems pretty good. So now I'm going to just check that one. So, and now I'm getting these in bite-sized chunks. So as my teams are developing their code, I'm starting to see drip feed of misconfigurations, which is so much, well, maybe not in this case. This is, I think our AKS example fails everything it does. All right.
It's 9, not 900 though. That's the point.
Right. You got it exactly right. So I know when from a static analysis perspective, and I'll apply the same use case knowledge to this. When people are first using something like in SAST and they scan a mature code base, right? They get 10,000 vulnerabilities and they're like, this is ridiculous. It's already deployed, right? The horse is bolted. What I would really love from a maintainability perspective is to just say no new misconfigurations or no new vulnerabilities going forward. And then we'll start to gnaw away at that technical debt. Perhaps we'll gamify it a little bit, have a Friday. Every Friday morning we take a crack at these things, right?
Stem the tide, right?
Stem the tide, exactly. So what typically happens both in SAST and can happen here is that you create your baseline by checking out, let's say, a version of the code from March. You run Checkov against it. You say, this is our last major release. It's out there. There's nothing I can do. We're going to run against that release date. You build it. You check in your baseline, and then you run Checkov again. And now you've got all the things you added before you release again. And then away you go. And then once you've cleared that off and you're feeling good, you create a new baseline again, but you back the date up a little bit. And then until eventually you've got it all covered. So it's not bad.
Yeah. And the fact that you can, like, obviously, for a simple example, that baseline would just be stored in Git, right? In your repo, along with the fact we can now do Checkov config files, which was the topic of a previous episode. Go and check that out on YouTube. Between those two, they're stored in Git, but the fact that you can just give the CLI, create a baseline, and then this is the baseline file I want you to read in actually allows like some much more kind of complex, interesting scenarios, right? Like I can envisage a scenario where, to your point with gamification, I want a developer to maybe deal with any issues in their pull request and one other historical brownfield security issue from the backlog. And by modifying, by like having a script as part of your CI/CD that creates a baseline, as you say, based on like head -1, and then like parsing that baseline file, you could very easily create a temporary baseline file in CI/CD that will then output to the developer like a single issue from the previous commit or history, and then just the issues in the new PR or something like that. So
Totally.
yeah, the possibilities there are pretty wide scoped, aren't they?
Yeah, it's awesome. And it's like, it's one of those things that you see it's there now and you're like, huh, it took us a while to add that. It seems like it seems like, how would I live without it now?
Right. Yeah, 100%. It's so interesting, like the conversations that have been had with like this kind of feature set, and it's very, very cool to see it in Checkov for proper. Like I said, there's people that have implemented this themselves by kind of having the JSON output and doing custom code, but hopefully by making it this accessible, it helps a lot more people.
Very nice, very nice. One other thing that I do personally with it, I think it's a bit of an edge case, but because I use Checkov using pre-commit hook, I created a baseline for my Kubernetes deployment against the Kubernetes files and the Docker files in the same repo. But I kind of don't care about the Docker file. Like I know what's wrong with it. So I created a baseline, deleted the YAML from it. So I have a baseline that just gets rid of my Docker files from my pre-commit check. So it was a way of not quite using it for the appropriate method, but it was just another useful piece of it to segregate a certain part of my repo using the baseline file.
It's another tool in your toolbox, right? For when you want your Checkov config suppressions to be something, and you want your pre-commit. I mean, technically you could have two Checkov config files, right? And have your pre-commit hook reference the other one.
I could do that. There was also a way of creating a directory structure that would have lent itself better to Checkov, but I'd already created it. So I was like, it was a kind of a cheater way of controlling my scan.
No, makes sense. Very, very cool. Like,
yeah,
I feel I'm learning like myself, like what's new in Checkov, having been away for a week.
I know, and that's all it takes. Take your eye off the ball for 1 week, and that's it. There's new stuff for like 5 minutes.
New release. Yeah, I dread to think what the GitHub Actions bill is for that particular repo.
Dangerous. All right, awesome. So that's it for baselining. It's pretty simple, right? You can already imagine. I didn't do it in CI, but you can imagine it works really well there. And now
it is on to me. Yeah, and I want to talk to people about the very exciting, star-studded, celebrity-filled world of cloud cost analysis and tagging.
Wow, you're making it sexy.
You know, it's where all the exciting work happens now. And this is one of a number of examples of a tool that, if you're not familiar, we released a new open source tool called your.io a few months ago. And it's all about solving problems that we were seeing more and more, where people need a tagging strategy on their cloud resources for various reasons, but there's not a particularly nice way to do it. So in true do one thing well style, we tried to solve that with a small new tool called Your. And to give you a really simple example of what that looks like, I have here, as is the theme for it seems this episode of the Office Hours, we all have our own version of TerraGoat molded to what we specifically need. So I have a version called Deployable Goat, which has security issues that aren't bad enough that I would worry about actually deploying this to an AWS account. So if we look, the only thing we really have is S3 resources. One of them is public and not encrypted and doesn't have access logs and versioning, but at the same time, it will never have any content in it. So for a teaching example, this is a hell of a lot better than, wide open AWS assumed role scopes and EC2 instances with, unpatched versions of Linux and no firewall rules and that kind of stuff. So vulnerable and, against sensible security practices, but not crazy. So as you can see, I have 3 resources: data, financials, and operations. And just to demonstrate your at its simplest, if I just run your tag, and very much like Checkov, I give it a local recursive directory to go and scan, your will go and parse all of your Terraform resources and work out where they are and if the directory is in a Git repo, and if so, what the commit is, what the modifiers are, who's it modified by, and all this kind of good stuff. And it will go through and it will basically append all of this information to your Terraform. So if I do git status, we can see the AWS s3.tf file has changed. And now if we go in here, we will see all of those things that we just saw spat onto the output. So the idea would be you can then save this, commit this, and because your knows which tags it's responsible for, it won't then see that change as a change if it's just those specific tags. So it's kind of idempotent. I can run your tag again, and it will say, look, I've scanned 11 resources. There's no new resources to trace, and there's no changes to update. However, if I was to go and make a change to, let me do that, in fact, here. Let me just quickly go. Had this issue before, haven't we, Steve, with the disappearing? There we go. If I just git add AWS s3.tf, even though that is a commit in my Git history, we run your again, it will not flag up that like the SHA has changed, because it will appreciate the only changes were to the tags, not to the actual infrastructure as code base. So you can see, even though we've committed that, we still have no changed resources. Whereas if we actually go and change something in the resource, let's have a look. Let's do that. And we try running your again. We can see that suddenly there is an uncommitted change, and the modification date for that single resource has changed. So what would usually happen is you would run your as part of your CI/CD pipeline. And so if I do a git add again, AWS, oh, that's so annoying. Hang on, give me a sec.
Your computer loves popping that toolbar up.
Oh, but ironically only when I'm screen sharing. I've got the pop-up thing disabled. Like, yeah, go figure. Either way, so what I'm basically saying here is if we do a git add AWS s3, because I've actually made a change now to my Terraform, and we were running this in the pipeline. There we go. I cannot type today, apparently, Steve. Maybe too much beer. And we run your again as part of a CI pipeline. You can see we suddenly have that new modified day and new changes, which would then be committed. So we're keeping our tags automatically updated and all that kind of cool stuff. And as you can see, the wealth of information you get on those tags is by default out of the box pretty useful. The commit that was created, the last time this resource changed, the file related to it, all this kind of stuff you can then see within Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, etc., etc. And that's just the basics of it. You can download you can pip install, you can run it in Docker, and it will be that useful to you out of the box. But what's really cool, and kind of where I'm going with cost allocation is we also support custom tags. And these custom tags can be defined in YAML, obviously, after the custom policies we were talking about earlier. And you can see here in terms of cost management, and like I said, check out the bridgecrew.io/blog. We have like a complete series on different use cases for Your and how these different custom tags can be used to effectively solve a lot of the problems highlighted with like the AWS kind of tagging guide publication, for example, in an automated way. In our case, what we're basically doing is saying we want to build on top of existing tags that Your has created for us and add some business logic to create new tags dynamically based on those. So we have 2 extra tags. We have cost team and cost org. And what we're basically saying is if the Git repo is from the Bridgecrew.io organization, let's tag it with Bridgecrew. Otherwise, let's tag it as external. And if the modifiers in terms of Git authors are myself or Steve, let's tag it as Bridgecrew DevRel. Otherwise, let's tag it as just Bridgecrew. And so what happens if we now rerun Your? We can effectively run Your with a config file like this. And that will not only do everything that we just saw Your doing, but will also implement the new tags. So because we'd already, again, idempotent, you can see new resources trace 3, existing resources, it's not changed any of the existing tags because it doesn't need to. But suddenly we have new tags for all our resources. We have Bridgecrew DevRel and external, because if I do a git remote, we can see this is a Metahertz Git organization on GitHub, not Bridgecrew. So it's all external, and yet it is me that's the author. So Bridgecrew DevRel is the cost center team tag. So when we deploy those, he says, magically one he created earlier into AWS, and I will say here, because this caught me out when I was first playing with this, you actually have to, in billing management, it's nowhere in AWS cost management. You literally have to go into like the billing settings for the account, and you have to choose tag names individually that you want to be able to use with AWS Cost Explorer. Otherwise, any custom tags do not show up by default. So that's a gotcha. If you're not seeing the Your tags you want to filter by, in this case, show up here. That's why. And you will need full billing privileges to go and edit those settings. So, just a gotcha. But obviously, this would work with any cost management software. We happen to be using AWS Cost Explorer. But, whatever you're using to kind of manage cloud costs, if you can filter by tags in it, then this is a super useful asset. So as you can see here, like as a security person, this doesn't help me massively. It just gives me a load of data about everything going on in this demo AWS account. Yet the ability to start building those tags based on, corporate rules or team structure or, all kinds, endless possibilities. You can then very easily start using those tags to go, well, okay, I only really care about how much money we're spending on things deployed from outside of Bridgecrew's Git repo code base, right? So what do we have deployed externally? So at that point, I go cost center org. I say, what do we have external? And I apply filters, and I find out in this case that we're spending absolutely nothing, which is fine because there's nothing in that S3 bucket. But you can see by being able to filter on these tags, we can really, really easily drill down into per team, per organization, where the code lives, as complex as you really want to get. Another really cool thing is if you're like, well, okay, that's all well and good, but I can't actually extract the information I need in my tags from existing tags that Your creates. If you check out the documentation, we actually support custom taggers written as part of the Your binary. You can extend the taggers within Your. So, for example, if the custom tag configuration file just isn't deep enough for you, you can actually create. Here we go. You can actually create custom taggers in Golang, which would maybe allow you to go and query an internal resource management database via an API and tag, any kind of custom data source that you might have within your organization or within whatever systems you have internally as part of your CI/CD. So yeah, check out the other blogs. This one was just related to cost analysis, but we're super excited about Your, and we think it solves a lot of problems that, no one likes tagging, do they? But it is kind of important as cloud environments get bigger and bigger and bigger.
The elephant in the room. No one likes tagging.
No one likes tagging. Your does it for you. The end.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's a pretty multifaceted demo because you started off with the basics of Your, showing how you can populate with just what information you get out of the box from Git. You introduced the config file and the way you can create logic around how you divide people up into groups. And then you showed an obvious use case as to where that's going to be handy for people who are viewing. That's just one use case. Now, hopefully people's imaginations are exploding right now going, okay, so what logic can I draw just out of Git to create a config file? And then where can I use that information later so that I have so much, enriched visibility?
Enriched visibility. That's a lovely hashtag, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what else I'd get with that hashtag.
Hashtag codified security. Hashtag enriched visibility.
That's right.
I like it. Yeah, thank you. I've been learning from Mike for arriving with a demo that shows way more than it promises. So
that's good. Yeah, I got up my game. That was great.
Not at all. Not at all. I'm super excited by it. I'll be honest. It was one of those things that when we first started talking about Your, I was very much in the fence, in the camp of, I don't care. Why would I care about tagging? Why would I that's someone else's problem. But actually, when you realize what you can do with it, and it's not even the people that are putting Your in the CI pipeline that are probably going to end up using those tags. It's people months, years later on, debugging an issue. The way it even allows you to just very, very quickly go from live cloud environment to exactly the resource you're looking for, which team, who to contact, where it is in the code base. It's just all there for you. It makes digging through issues in urgent scenarios just so much quicker.
Got it. Yeah. And when you start scaling your resources and you've got some kind of tagging that represents that scaling, as opposed to it being ad hoc or trying to come up with a strategy on your own, which always tends to fall by the wayside, right? I did one of these presentations for a meetup recently, and it was the guy who ran the meetup was kept interrupting me going, wait. So you're saying, and it was just his brain was okay, because we've been working on a strategy for this for goodness knows how long, and this is just out of the box. Fabulous. So yeah, it's cool. It's kind of weird that I don't know of another solution like that is Your but not Your. It's cool. It's I feel like it's a pretty groundbreaking piece of open source. So go download it.
I agree. Yeah, that is your call to action. Go your.io, go download, go tag your stuff.
Exactly. There's the out of the box Your that you just showed gives you all the Git. So it's or add it to your. The only confusing thing is that it's called Your, and we keep saying Your. Add Your to your repo.
Take Your.
We're overloading.
Add it to your repo.
Yeah, but that's okay. People will figure it
out
eventually.
I need better elocution to distinguish between those, don't I? Take Your and add it to your repo.
Maybe I should say Your with an American accent and Your or with your accent.
Your governor. But no, it is incredibly cool, and I agree. I cannot think of another tool that does this for you. And certainly not open source and free. So go add it to your pipeline because that's where it should live. Oh, also something I didn't mention. If you have it in a CI/CD pipeline, it will do the commit for you, which is very, very cool.
Yes, that is awesome.
So you don't even have to write logic in your CI/CD pipeline of, okay, well, Yours now done this thing. Let's do a git commit. It will just tag and then commit itself, and it will mark the commit as an author of your.io bot or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it's super, super all in one.
Amazing. I think we're done the show, are we?
I think we are. Let's wrap it up. I didn't even get onto my second beer, so that's going back in the fridge. Ojusko. That is not how you pronounce it.
Very cool. All right, so there you go. There's your call to action. Go to your.io, download that. Go to checkup.io, and then go get the VS Code plugin and get started with all that kind of stuff.
While we are telling you what to do, also like, star, follow, subscribe. Ask questions, come and join us in Slack if you have ideas or topics for the next office hours. We would absolutely love some war stories, or to get more guests on doing cool things with any of these tools. So yes, I have been Matt Johnson. And
I'm Steve Giguere.
You have been Steve Giguere. And this is episode 11 signing out. Thanks for watching, everyone.